Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In the contested waters of the South China Sea, tensions have simmered for decades, with multiple nations laying claim to overlapping territories. This region, rich in natural resources and vital for global commerce, has long been a powder keg waiting for a spark. Now, a new flashpoint has emerged, drawing the eyes of the world and raising the stakes for all involved. A landmark energy agreement between the United States and the Philippines is sending shockwaves across the Indo-Pacific. This deal, forged after months of negotiation, signals a bold new chapter in the region's ongoing struggle for influence and control. This isn't just about oil and gas. It's about sovereignty, power, and the fragile balance of peace in a vital maritime region. The South China Sea is believed to hold vast, untapped reserves of energy, making it a prize that many are eager to claim. The Pact, signed in July 2023, aims to unlock energy resources for the Philippines, directly challenging China's sweeping claims. For Manila, it's a chance to secure its energy future and assert its rights in waters it considers its own. The South China Sea is a superhighway for global trade. Any conflict here could cripple supply chains worldwide. Over a third of all maritime trade passes through these waters, connecting Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The agreement marks a major escalation in the US-China rivalry, testing alliances and the willingness of nations to risk conflict for resources. As American and Chinese warships shadow each other, the risk of miscalculation grows ever more real. The Philippines, armed with a 2016 International Tribunal ruling, sees the pact as a rightful exercise of sovereignty. For many Filipinos, it's a long overdue stand against what they view as bullying by a much larger neighbor. China, however, views it as a provocative intrusion, enabled by US interference. Beijing insists its claims are rooted in centuries of history, and it has repeatedly warned against what it calls external meddling. This clash has turned a bilateral deal into a high-stakes geopolitical drama, with warships and diplomatic rhetoric on a tense stage. The world watches as both sides dig in, unwilling to back down. To understand the crisis, we must explore the deep historical roots and alliances that shape today's volatile situation. Only by looking back can we grasp the full complexity of this new flashpoint in the South China Sea. The South China Sea dispute is centuries old, but today's conflict is more intense than ever. At its core is China's 9-dash line, claiming nearly 90% of the sea, overlapping with the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei. Tensions escalated as China built artificial islands with military facilities, alarming neighbors and the US, which champions freedom of navigation. In 2016, the Philippines won a landmark legal victory at The Hague, invalidating China's claims. China rejected the ruling, deepening the divide between international law and power politics. The Philippines, feeling its legal win ignored, has turned to allies for support. China sees US involvement as an attempt to contain its rise. The South China Sea is now a grand chessboard where every move carries immense strategic weight. The US-Philippines alliance, anchored by the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, is a pillar of regional security. The treaty commits both nations to defend each other, deterring aggression in the Western Pacific. Recent years have seen the alliance revitalized in response to China's assertiveness. The US has clarified that the treaty covers attacks on Philippine forces anywhere in the South China Sea, raising the stakes for Beijing. Beyond military ties, the partnership now includes nuclear energy cooperation and infrastructure development. These moves offer alternatives to Chinese-led projects, deepening US ties with Southeast Asia. For President Marcos Jr., strengthening the alliance is a pragmatic way to counterbalance China. For the US, a strong Philippines is key to maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific. The Energy Pact is the latest step in this evolving strategic partnership. The US-Philippines Energy Cooperation Pact, signed in July 2023, marks a significant milestone in the evolving partnership between the two nations. This agreement is not just a routine diplomatic gesture, it is a calculated move with far-reaching consequences for the region's energy security and geopolitical landscape. At its core, the Pact's main goal is the joint exploration and development of oil and gas resources within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, including highly contested areas like Reed Bank, which have long been a flashpoint in the South China Sea disputes. By bringing in American expertise, advanced technology, and substantial investment, the agreement aims to help the Philippines tap into its vast undersea reserves. This collaboration is expected to boost local technical skills and create new opportunities for Filipino workers in the energy sector. Beyond fossil fuels, the pact also covers technology transfer, infrastructure upgrades, and robust support for renewable energy sources like solar and wind. This is a forward-looking approach, designed to diversify the Philippines' energy mix and promote sustainable growth. The agreement's broader aim is to modernize the Philippines' entire energy sector, making it more resilient and less dependent on imported fuel. Over time, this could help stabilize energy prices and strengthen the country's economic independence. U.S. officials have framed the pact as a model for regional cooperation, positioning it as a strategic alternative to growing Chinese influence and dependence in Southeast Asia. The legal foundation for this cooperation is the 2016 Hague ruling, which reaffirmed the Philippines' rights in the disputed waters. This ruling is frequently cited by Manila as the basis for its actions and international partnerships. Philippine officials consistently stress that the agreement is lawful, transparent, and focused on peaceful development, aiming to benefit local communities and foster regional stability. Ultimately, the pact is about more than just energy. It's about asserting national rights, strengthening sovereignty, and setting a precedent for how regional disputes can be addressed through cooperation and rule of law. In many ways, this agreement signals a new era of U.S. engagement in Southeast Asia, one that could reshape alliances and influence the region's future for years to come. China's response was swift and uncompromising. Beijing condemned the pact as a grave infringement on its sovereignty, accusing the U.S. of stoking confrontation. Chinese vessels increased their presence, aggressively shadowing and harassing Philippine ships. Tactics included water cannons and blockades, raising the risk of miscalculation at sea. Chinese media painted the U.S. as a destabilizing force, claiming Washington's real goal is to maintain Pacific dominance. For China, the pact is a direct challenge to its regional authority and historical claims. By inviting the U.S., the Philippines is seen as internationalizing the dispute. China's forceful reaction is a warning. Challenging its core interests will be met with overwhelming pressure. The world is watching and choosing sides. U.S. allies like Japan and Australia quickly voiced support for the Philippines, citing international law and the 2016 ruling. Their backing reflects shared concerns over China's assertiveness and a commitment to a rules-based order. Other Southeast Asian claimants like Vietnam and Malaysia are cautiously supportive but wary of provoking Beijing. The pact could inspire them to seek similar partnerships with the U.S. Washington is building a coalition to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific, using the pact as a tangible sign of commitment. However, U.S. trade tensions with ASEAN nations complicate these efforts. For Southeast Asia, balancing security ties with the U.S. against economic risks with both Washington and Beijing is a delicate act. Their long-term alignment remains uncertain. The pact's economic stakes are huge for the Philippines. Accessing local oil and gas could reduce dependence on imports, lower energy costs, and fuel growth. The resulting boom could boost GDP and fund public services. Politically, the pact deepens the U.S.-Philippines alliance and strengthens President Marcos Jr.'s standing. It may also encourage a more unified ASEAN response to China. But the risks are real. Heightened tensions threaten a vital global trade artery. Any disruption could trigger shortages, inflation, and economic turmoil worldwide. Within the Philippines, the promise of prosperity is tempered by fears of conflict. Coastal communities and fishers face immediate danger from escalating maritime confrontations. The nation must weigh the dream of energy independence against the nightmare of war. Experts describe the new pact as a pivotal test of international law and a defining moment in the ongoing rivalry between the world's great powers. It's not just a legal agreement, it's a signal to the world that the rules of engagement in the region are being rewritten, and the stakes have never been higher. Dr. Maria Santos, a leading maritime law expert, explains that the agreement is more than words on paper. By enlisting U.S. support, she says, the Philippines is turning abstract legal rights into concrete realities, making it much harder for rivals to ignore or undermine their claims. Strategists and economists alike see this as a major shift, from saber-rattling and military posturing to a direct economic and strategic challenge. This move raises the stakes for China, forcing it to reconsider its approach not just militarily, but also in terms of trade and regional influence. On the ground and at sea, the U.S. and Philippines are creating new realities, building infrastructure, conducting joint patrols, and establishing a presence that dares China to either respond or back down. These actions are reshaping the balance of power in the region, step by step. Yet, not everyone is convinced this is the right path. Critics warn that the pact is a reckless gamble, one that could provoke dangerous escalation and put Manila directly in harm's way, turning the city into a potential flashpoint in a much larger conflict. For China, the situation is a dilemma. If Beijing backs down, it risks losing face and influence, but if it responds forcefully, it could trigger a crisis with unpredictable consequences both regionally and globally. The risk of conflict between nuclear-armed powers is no longer theoretical. With so many military assets in close proximity, even a small miscalculation could spiral into a confrontation with devastating results. While the pact undeniably strengthens alliances and reassures partners, it also increases the likelihood of a direct clash. The region is now on edge, with every move watched closely by all sides. As one analyst put it, the situation is like a high-stakes game of chicken between Washington and Beijing, with the Philippines, for better or worse, sitting in the driver's seat, steering through uncertainty. Ultimately, the outcome will depend on careful diplomacy, restraint, and a shared desire among all parties to avoid catastrophe. The world is watching, hoping that cooler heads will prevail in this geopolitical minefield. The Energy Pact has redrawn the South China Sea's geopolitical map. It's a bold assertion of Philippine sovereignty, backed by U.S. power, and a pushback against China's claims. The opportunities: energy independence, a revitalized alliance, and a model for smaller nations. The risks: heightened tensions, aggressive Chinese responses, and the specter of conflict. The path forward demands skilled diplomacy and open communication to prevent escalation. To stay informed, follow credible news sources, official statements, and independent analysis. Watch not just the words, but the actions, maritime activity, military exercises, and diplomatic moves. The story is far from over, and its outcome will shape the future of the region and the world.